One. What's happening in West Virginia tonight, and why has Mr. Bush picked it up?
Right, you're absolutely right, Peter. 5 out of 6 of the last elections, it's gone Democratic. There's two ways to look at it. I want to tell you about the religious right. Almost a third of the vote in West Virginia today. You could say, you should say, we will say George Bush won that vote. He won it very well, 67%. Another way to look at it, though, is that Al Gore actually lost the religious right. Let's take a look at the numbers. Of those members of the religious right in West Virginia today, Al Gore, well, first let me show you why. Bill Clinton, 4 years ago, got 37% of the religious right. He didn't win it. He got 37%. Today, Al Gore only got 29%. So as I say, you can look at it by saying that Al Gore simply didn't do as well as he should have or as well as done in the past. Peter?
Okay, thanks very much, Lynn. To Cokie Roberts on switch seats in the House.
Well, we're trying to keep a tally, Peter, of the people who have actually won in the House of Representatives tonight, and some of them are people who had won coming into tonight. We know that it's 223 Republicans, 210 Democrats. So far, 162 Democrats have won tonight, 186 Republicans, and that is a switch of Democrats taking 2 Republican seats, Republicans taking 3 Democratic seats, so the Republicans are up 1. Let me tell you about one of those seats, though, because it makes a very interesting point. It's in Virginia. It was an open seat, a Democratic seat that the Republican Ed Schrock has won over Democrat Jody Wagner. And the reason it's interesting is that the Democrat quit that seat because he saw that the state legislature had gone overwhelmingly Republican. He expected to be redistricted out of that seat come next time around, and he decided just to hang it up. Now it's a Republican seat, and that's going to be going on around the country next year as you see the census kicking in and redistricting taking place. If the Democrats don't take the House tonight, I think you're going to see a lot of retirements of Democrats who are worried about that redistricting.
In fact, Cokie, you may even be understating it in some respects, because in the next Congress, redistricting is going to be a very passionate subject, is it not?
Of course it is, because we've just come out of a census, and so you will have redistricting all over the country, with some states picking up a number of House seats, some states losing a number of House seats, so it will get very, very heated. And I think that you're likely to see some senior Democrats who can be counted on to be reelected and reelected and reelected quitting rather than face that redistricting.
Okay, thanks very much. President Clinton let it be known a short while ago that he's not going to have anything to say about the election until he goes back to Washington, I think, tomorrow. John Cochran is in Washington tonight. John, you've been out on the campaign trail for much of the year, and you've been looking at the returns tonight. Where do you see Clinton fatigue?
In terms of seeing Clinton fatigue, the story really is where you don't see it. It looks like Al Gore was right, for example, in the state of Michigan, not to let President Clinton go into Michigan, even though Michigan state candidates said, send in Bill Clinton, let's energize the Democratic vote, let's get the base out there. Al Gore said no, and Al Gore won Michigan. Looks pretty good.
Thanks very much, John. An anecdote from an ABC News colleague of ours, David Murphy, a graduate student in San Francisco, was now driving north of San Francisco in order to cast his ballot. He sends us a message to say, after watching and listening to the returns, he felt it crucial that he cast his ballot regardless of the distance. And if traffic isn't too bad, he and others hope to get there 10 minutes before the polls close. When we come back, we'll ask Lynn Sherr why Mr. Gore lost in Tennessee.
ABC News live coverage of the 2000 vote will continue in a moment. ABC News live coverage of the 2000 vote continues from New York. Once again, Peter Jennings.
Welcome back. We want to go straight ahead to Lynn Sherr, who's been looking at our exit polls all night to see if we can get some handle now on why Mr. Gore has done badly in Tennessee. Lynn.
His home state, Peter, and an awful lot of people were thinking he really ought to be winning it. What we've discovered is that Tennessee is, the vote is pretty much split equally between Democrats and Republicans. Those who made the difference politically were the independents. 23% of the vote in Tennessee today. Let's take a look at how they split. Independent voters in Tennessee, 55% for George Bush, only 38% for Al Gore. So clearly he lost that very important independent vote, which is what put Mr. Bush over the top. One more thing I want to tell you, Peter, we had a question on the exit poll that asked folks how important was it to them that Al Gore is from Tennessee. Only 31% said it was important. 67% said it simply didn't matter.
Didn't matter that he was from Tennessee.
Didn't matter.
I should hope not. That it doesn't matter that he's from Tennessee. But John Yang is down at Gore headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. John, your latest intelligence?
Well, Peter, I tell you, they still have not given up hope on Florida. They're saying that pointing out the returns from Palm Beach County and Broward County are slow coming in. That's in the southeastern corner of the state, an area they consider a Democratic stronghold. They very much want Florida in their column. For the last couple of weeks, they've been saying if they could run the table, to use a pool term of the three big states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Florida, they thought they could win the election. Talking about Tennessee a little bit, even though they spent a lot of time here and they are clearly, I think, embarrassed that the vice president has not won his home state, it was never a state in the closing days that they felt very confident about. A couple of aides, when I was talking to them about various scenarios of getting to 270, a couple of them acknowledged that they could do it without Tennessee.
Okay, John, thanks very much. First time tonight we've seen John Yang. He's been on the Gore campaign for months and months and months. We'll come back to you, but let's go to Dean Reynolds, who is at Austin in Texas. Dean, intelligence from there.
Well, Peter, of course, they're now doing a lot of new math on the Electoral College, and they're factoring Florida in here at the Bush campaign. I have to point out, though, that just a couple of days ago, they were forecasting very confidently 320 votes or more, and one Bush aide today told me that he thought they'd get at maybe as high as 340. So what has been called triumphalist theater that the Bush people were engaging in the last couple of weeks by exuding this air of confidence may actually have been true. They should be pretty nervous over there tonight as they watch the last few states come in.
Dean, you pointed out earlier in the evening that the people have showed up here outside the State House very early, and they've stayed. Who showed up?
Well, they're uniformly Bush supporters and Republican supporters. They were very wildly cheering for Kay Bailey Hutchison, who has been reelected this evening, and they have been in this sort of seesaw of emotions. Earlier tonight, they were rather subdued, and then again within the last hour, when Florida went back up on the table, it's become very exciting here in Austin, even though it's snowing.
Thank you, Dean. Reminder, of course, that Governor Bush reelected in Texas, very popular governor in Texas. His election, his record in Texas under enormous attack throughout the campaign, but a great many people showing up there tonight to support him. Now, on this subject of going west and trying to put together the 270, we haven't talked yet about California. I think at the moment, or at least not at the moment, I should say, based on the closing polls of the campaign, we think California is going to go to Mr. Gore. Do you have any doubt about it at the moment?
I don't, Peter, and obviously if it doesn't, then this game is academic. It is George W. Bush will be the next president. But, you know, he did make quite an effort in the state of California. He visited there in the last week. He spent an awful lot of money on TV, a couple $1 million on TV towards the end. The George W. Bush campaign seemed to have made a deal with the Republican Party in California. If money was raised in California, it would be spent in California. And that also had a double effect. As Koki knows, there were a lot of House seats, vulnerable House seats in California, so the fact that George Bush made an effort there could have helped them. At least he would try.
Okay, Koki Roberts on the subject of California, but first let me just tell people it was our intention to go off at 11 Eastern time to give local stations a chance to catch up with all of their races. We're going to stay on, obviously, because this is so close now, and we hope to get some sense of what's going on in Oregon, Washington, and California, not to mention Nevada, Arizona, and Colorado before long. So we will stay on. We'll not be going off at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Koki, California.
Well, California, the Republican Party in California in recent years has been in terrible trouble. It's the only big state with a Democratic governor, and there have been propositions on the ballot over the years that have had the effect of alienating Hispanics and Asians, and so Republicans have had a tough time, and both George Bush Sr. and Bob Dole abandoned California in their presidential bids, giving up on it. So George W. Bush hung in there, stayed there, and spent a lot of money there, scaring at least one Democratic incumbent congressman, and trying to shore up several Republicans. There's an open Republican seat that could easily go Democratic, and there are 3 Republican incumbents that could be defeated by Democrats, and Bush was trying to stop that from happening, and he might have. We don't know yet.
And Sam Donaldson, I would say to you in California that one of the Republicans who's not popular with the party is former Governor Pete Wilson, who denied illegal immigrants opportunity to share in the full benefits of the social welfare of the state. Otherwise, Republicans might be doing better.
I think that's exactly right. And certainly the Hispanic vote in California is growing, it's large, and that didn't help him at all. Other propositions, Peter, if California was a state which did away with bilingual education, and the guy who put that forward in California, by the way, brought it to Arizona. It's on the ballot, even as we speak, in Arizona, to do away with bilingual education there.
Thank you, Sam. Let's go to Mrs. Clinton's headquarters here in New York City, where Mrs. Clinton, who we long ago projected had won the Senate race in New York to replace Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who's there on her right, who's retiring. And there, of course, is her husband and her daughter with them as well.
New York, so we'll get to her just as soon as she's ready.
And she would be the first lady to ever win public office.
Well, Rick Lazio in the New York Senate race. Well, it looks like California candidates could set records this year for the number of million-dollar campaigns.
What I meant was the first lady. Did I say the first lady?
No, the first.
Okay, that's what I really meant.
First lady
okay.
to win office.
All right. So anyhow,
leaving the White House.
Getting back to this, the candidates are fighting for control of Congress, but term limits, inflation, and a healthy economy is also credited for the extra.
An awful long time in the direct mail. I believe she'll probably replace him. But you know, I think you'll also see her try to prove herself in the Senate in the same way she tried to prove herself in the campaign, show that she's a real workhorse. I've heard word, for example, that she's going to try and take Senator Moynihan's old seat on the Finance Committee, the linchpin of all that important taxation legislation.
Another question to which I have absolutely no answer, didn't even think to research. Mrs. Clinton has campaigned in New York State with all of the trappings of the First Lady, including all...
Tom Cruise and Rob Lowe. Next ET. Gore wins California, goes back into the electoral vote lead. That's among the CBS News election night headlines of this hour. Gore strikes gold in California with 54 electoral votes, but it may not be the mother lode he needs to be elected president. Mark it. The presidential race is still too close to call, but with a tilt and teeter still toward Bush at the moment. It's 11 o'clock in the East. This is the electoral vote count. Gore has won 16 states, including California, plus the District of Columbia, for 230 electoral votes. Bush has won 24 states, has a total of 217. It takes 270 to win. Hillary Clinton has won a big Senate race in New York, and Chuck Robb has been defeated in Virginia. This is the up-to-the-minute popular vote count for the presidential race. This is the popular vote count. 49% Bush, 48% Gore. Polls now closed in all states but Alaska, with the 4 states just closed, including California, single biggest prize of the night. Let's take a quick look. California goes for Gore, 54 big electoral votes there. Hawaii, Gore in Hawaii. Alaska, the polls are not yet closed. No winner yet. No call can be made in the race for the White House because Washington State and Oregon are still out there, among others. Remember, take a look at the electoral vote map. In addition to Washington and Oregon, Oregon has 7 electoral votes. Washington has 11. Florida, with 25 big electoral votes, is now in the undecided column. It may yet decide this presidential race. Arkansas with 6. Iowa with 7. Wisconsin with 11. Colorado with 8 electoral votes. All of these states, the polls have closed. No decision as yet. The presidential election hangs in the balance. This is election night on CBS. What a ding-dong battle this is. Electoral count now. Al Gore has carried California, is our CBS News estimate, with 54 big electoral votes, also picked up 4 in Hawaii. Color Hawaii blue, color California blue. Polls have not yet closed in Alaska. This is the last state where the polls are still open anywhere. But there's some big states out there, including Florida and Wisconsin and Washington State, not to mention Oregon, that still have considerable electoral votes. Now, in the Senate races, California Senate Dianne Feinstein has held on to a Democratic seat in the Senate in California, and Senator Daniel Akaka has been returned for a second term. That's a hold on for the Democrats. Right now, it's hard to say who's going to control the new Senate. In the Washington State Senate race, which is one that might decide who controls the next Senate, no decision yet. That race was expected to be close, and apparently it is. Now, we started the night, 34 Senate races. The Democrats needed to win 20 of those 34. So far, as you can see, they won 15. The Republicans need to win 15 to retain control of the Senate. They're one Senate seat short. A long way to go with this, but you could wind up with a 50-50 vote in the Senate, and that would mean